This is the Stormy Willow Podcast, a lighthearted, balanced examination of the paranormal.
Well, hello there, Brood. This is your favorite podcasting paranormal one loving sisters, Sarah and Adele here.
What's up?
Howdy do.
What's up?
Oh, Adele, how are you?
I'm good on this gloomy Sunday.
Oh, it's gloomy out where you are.
Yeah, but I like it because it's kind of cozy.
Yeah, it's sunny here in South Carolina, but it is frigid. It's not some of the coldest cold we've had. It was like I think 15 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not fun. I don't like it. It can go away.
Yeah, I've been hearing everybody eastward kind of bitching about that. We had that crap
Florida.
last week.
Yeah, like even Dad down in Florida, I think he
said he had to put on pants instead of shorts.
Yep, had to find some breeches.
He had to bust out his one pair of joggers.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really cold, and it has not been fun. But I mean, at least it's been sunny, I guess, but you don't really want to go out and do anything. Like, Steven and I actually went to the mall here where I live and did some mall walking yesterday because it was just so cold, and we didn't want to be inside, and we wanted to exercise. So, yeah, we had started mall walking, and I have to say, Adele, it was really nice. And then we got like a cookie after. It was nice.
It's important to reward yourself.
I was like, oh God, we were coming these people. The mall where we live is like such a crap mall. Like no one is there. There's like
the Galleria.
Yep, that's it.
I miss the days when people used to smoke in there.
I love that mall. Like there's like nobody there. It was so nice. I was
Are there even any stores? Like actual stores?
So there's Belt.
Okay.
And Bed Bath and Beyond, and that's it.
Not even Yankee Candle anymore.
No.
I have to say though, their food court used to be pretty good there.
There's nothing in the food court anymore except for the cookie company, which I just want to give them a shout out. They're amazing. And then there's Showmars, and that's it.
Oh well, Showmars, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty good crinkle fries.
But we got our mall walk on, and it was really. We were like, this is nice. Like this is nice. Strolled through Belk.
Does that mall still have? There's almost something spicy smelling about that mall.
Yeah, it does
right?
smell like a spice.
It's like a spice. I don't know what the hell they built that mall out of, but it has always had that spice to it.
Since day one.
It has to be one of the materials.
The spice is still there.
Unless it's the same man wearing a bunch of Old Spice that works there. But I really think it has to be a building material, I hope.
And then Dick's Sporting Goods is there now.
That's kind of an improvement.
But it's just, so yeah, I mean, we enjoyed our mall walk, you know. This is nice. We even thought about getting a massage from one of those massage chairs. And they even like upgraded like a part of the mall. Like they had like these nice leather chairs that you could like sit and read. I'm like, okay, I might be hanging out at the Galleria in the winter. But all I could think about, Adele, and I just wanted to, you know, did Booger News last week about the aliens in the Miami Mall. Mm-hmm. I just want you to know that when we were there, guess what song was playing? We Could Be Heroes for Only a Day. And that was like a big song in Stranger Things. And we were at the mall, and I was like, Steven, vibes. And they have an escape room out there.
Oh, I feel like that's becoming an anchor to malls too, right? Escape rooms.
So I could definitely see aliens like being a portal. Like the Rock Hill Galleria would be the perfect portal.
Oh, dude, that place is a portal.
That place is a portal, all right.
Ooh, it attracts a lot of weirdos.
Me and Steven are right there in it. We loved it. It was great. So yeah, I mean, other than mall walking, you know, these days, that's how I'm beating the cold. What about you?
I just stay inside my house. I just don't leave home. That's not. Well, I mean, I lived in Chicago. Like,
yeah, you've done.
It's really. I do have to say, like, I'm not prepared for it though when it's cold, so it's a lot more annoying. Like, if you live in a place where it's not supposed to be cold, it's fucking annoying.
Thank you. We're not all just idiots. We're just not prepared for it.
It's just, it's like you don't have all this salt to salt everything, and they don't have snow plows, so everything's just slushy and icy for a week, and it's shitty.
Awful. It's just, thank you for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of some frigid news.
Abominable Snowman?
Even better. So I sent this to Adele because I really think we should go So we haven't done a event in a long time. So this is going to be an event plus a story. Not an actual story, but a book or news story, if you will. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching one of my favorite news programs, CBS Sunday Morning News. I love it. It's about the arts and all the things. And they covered this, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, this is amazing. And they've covered it more than once. So they have in Estes Park, Colorado, which you may know, it's home to the Stanley Hotel. They have a frozen Dead Guy Days. It's March the 15th through the 17th. And they have it like all over the like they have stuff at the Stanley. They have live music. They have coffin races, frozen polar plunges. They have Bloody Mary Sunday brunch. It just looks like a freaking blast. And the story behind it is really crazy. So I want to tell you the story because I was not familiar with it. But basically, so in the, all right, I'm not saying Netherland, I'm saying Netherland. That's in Colorado, right?
Okay.
So they're in Colorado. They have a law, or they did have a law, that it was illegal to freeze an animal or a body. Like you couldn't do cryogenics. Like, no, no, it was outlawed there in that place.
That's
And they might,
oddly specifically. Why would you even bother to ban that?
yeah, but I wonder if a lot more places have laws like that, but no one's ever really.
What? But I thought historically, I'll probably cut this out, but I find that confusing because I thought historically you would just freeze dead stuff until the ground thawed and you could bury it.
Yeah,
Like,
but
what else are you supposed to do with bodies that die in
yeah.
the wintertime when the ground's too hard? I don't know.
Like, wouldn't that force you into cremation? And what if that's like not what your loved one wanted?
Yeah, like, what if they, because some people are really weird about that.
Or like they let you, like maybe they let you hold it for a certain time, but you can't do it indefinitely.
Oh, maybe it's like it has to
It's
be
like
buried as
it
soon as
has
the
to be
ground's thaw.
within like maybe a year, or you know what I mean? Like there might be a time
Okay.
period on it.
I just,
So
I don't understand how there's that many cases for them to even consider banning it.
right. Well, this came up. So basically, Grandpa Bredo, we have to thank for them changing the law out there in Netherlands, not Netherland. Um, so he so his grandson had to leave the United States in the mid 90s because of an expired visa. And so Bredo's daughter stepped in to take care of keeping her father on ice. So basically what they would do is they had like this storage shed and they would keep him on ice. So someone had to always be there, to keep him frozen because this family was like really into cryonics and there really weren't facilities at the time. Bless you. There weren't there weren't really facilities available, but it was something that was important to their grandfather and to them because they're like, if science changes and we can bring him back, like we want to do it.
Hmm.
And so basically he was cared for by his family and the actual community there like stepped in to help like make sure his body was always on ice. And so then in August 2023, with his grandson's permission, Grandpa Bredo was moved by a team from Alcor, driven to the Stanley Hotel's old ice house in Estes Park, where he was submerged headfirst in liquid nitrogen, and he's now at home at the Stanley Hotel, which has the only museum dedicated to the science of cryonics.
That's pretty cool.
And so the Stanley wanted to do it because if you remember like the book or the movie, like you remember the movie Jack Nicholson's like Frozen and stuff. So they
Oh,
felt
yeah.
like it just made sense to have him there. So yeah, I mean it's really cool. And I saw the story on CBS Sunday Morning and the people that were doing like the actual like moving him, like the reporter asked, he's like, "May I ask like how did his body look?" And they said that it looked better than a body that had been like embalmed.
Well, I don't know. What year
So,
did
so
he
he
do this?
actually, okay, let me go back because it breaks it down. Like he would be 120 years old
Jeez.
today.
Okay.
Um, And so it's really crazy. Like he died in 1989 and he was actually from Norway. And so yeah, and so they said he would be Grandpa Bredo is over 120 years old.
Jeez.
So yeah.
And that
And
sounds
so
like about the right timing, though. You said 89, because I feel
yeah.
like the early 90s were all about cryogenics. Even joking
Yeah.
that Michael Jackson like wanted to be
Right.
frozen
I
and stuff like
always remember that being Michael Jackson's gonna be
and then
frozen.
like Demolition Man, they are, Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, they're frozen and brought back. And
Yeah. It's crazy. And like cryogenics, like, it is kind of fascinating. Like they have these warehouses and stuff, and like they are, played a big part in this as well because it's like it helps them to get the word out about, there are other options out there. And I think it's really cool how a community came together. Because I mean, can you imagine like most people, like if they heard this story, they'd be like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. And this community's like, yeah, we'll help put ice on Paw Paw,
I just
like how nice.
I kind of don't think I want to be cremated anymore.
You're like, hang on.
Wait, can I
But,
join the Stanley too? Will they put me there?
right?
I mean, I
Like,
will so do it. I will freeze myself. They'll put me there. They can.
yeah,
Hey,
right?
Stanley Hotel, do you want the cast of Stormy Willow forever in your hotel?
I mean, let me tell you, I'm trying to talk Adele and Mom and Steven and Amanda into going. I think it would be such a fun trip. And it just seems really fun. And a lot of the people we're talking to, like it's been so cool for them because they're like it's a way that they are keeping their grandfather alive because it's like, there's a freaking festival every year in his honor and like the community surrounds it and then all of a sudden he's at the Stanley and they're like, what a way to honor him. So I just thought I love the story. I can't believe I've never heard of this. It's been going on forever. And I just cannot believe I had never heard of it, but I'm there for it. I think it seems
Sounds like
really,
fun
really
to me.
fun. I think it sounds like a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of good times, you want to hear about your forecast the last week of January?
Why the hell not? It's inevitable.
Well, I mean, let me tell you, I feel like January is like 52 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a really
I'm
long month.
over it. Like it's still January. So we're gonna finally wrap it up in a week. And we've got some good stuff. So I went to a new website today to get our forecast. I went to astrologyking.com and I really
Ooh,
liked how they broke it down like day by day for us. So we're gonna kick it off with Monday. And I thought this was so cool, Adele. So this week the moon is gonna enter both of our signs, which I think was awesome. So Monday it's going to be in Cancer, and Thursday the moon's going to enter Leo. So I mean, what? You've
pretty
got
fun.
like the best of both
It's
worlds
like
for your
Shamrock. So it's gonna feel like Shamrock Quirk vibes this week, is what you're saying.
100%. It's going to be
Street where we
amazing.
lived. Yeah.
It's going to be great. So Tuesday, Venus is going to enter Pluto, which for our single friends, you may be feeling like, hey, it's that time. I'm gonna get out there and meet that someone special. So it's a good day to do it, get out
Yes, you might
there.
not be alone for Valentine's Day.
You may not be alone for Valentine's Day. So Tuesday is your day. So if you're thinking about, mingling, maybe you put a little heart around
Yeah.
Tuesday
So
because
if you were on
Venus
the fence about maybe like a speed dating or social thing, maybe you should go.
that would be so fun. You should go because Venus and Pluto are going to be in your corner. So that can't
Yeah.
hurt.
So go do
And
it.
then do it. So Thursday is if, the moon being in Leo isn't special enough for you, it's also a full moon. Hello, time to recharge those rocks and
See, we're
crystals.
gonna have were lions.
We're gonna have werelions around.
Well, it makes me think of the gay werewolf on the Big Gay Sketch Show. It's a full moon. And I'm gay tonight.
I like that. I like those vibes. But unfortunately, you're gonna need to get ready to feel all the things. Remember, you've got to practice some self-control, patience, and forgiveness. So try not to, mouth off or
Mm,
anything to try to just kind of bring that in if you can. I know it is easier said than done. So just be mindful of that Thursday you're just going to be feeling, those full moon kind of people go bananas vibes. Just try not to react. Try to woosah if you can. But Friday, that patience and hard work that you put in on Thursday is actually going to pay off because it's going to really help you focus on those long-term goals. And this is going to be a day where you might want to hang out with folks that have lived a little longer than you or wiser than you. So it's a really good day to listen to your elders and maybe just kind of take in their advice for how they achieved hard things. So good day for that. And then Saturday, you are going to be feeling confident and optimistic. Good fortune and success are possible. Remember, being overconfident, though, can lead to a lot of embarrassment. So remember to stay humble. So even though you may feel like, I got a way to make money, I got a way to have good fortune, everything's going great for me, that's awesome. But don't be a jackass about it
Yeah.
because
Don't make
you
an
could
ass
really
of
make it
yourself.
yourself. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then finally, Sunday, you may feel an increased need for companionship. So, partnered friends, you're going to really feel extra bonding with your significant other. And single friends, this is going to be another push that the universe is telling you to get out there and find that special somebody. So, our single friends this week, man, universe is really pushing you to
Yeah.
not
Get
hide
out and mingle.
inside. So, your days are going to be Tuesday and Sunday, and the partnered bonds. Remember, we need to be nice on Thursday and have extra cuddles on Sunday.
Yes. I guess if you want that second date Sunday, be nice on Thursday.
It better be nice on Thursday. That's right. That's right. So yeah. So not, I feel like the forecast has not been that bad this year. So I feel like we're getting a little bit of a breather. So
Yeah,
we're
I
really
feel like
grateful
it's
for
just
that.
the nature of it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, you know what I mean? Because Q4 is always fucking chaotic. It's the end of the fiscal year for businesses. It's all
Yeah.
the freaking holidays. It's when they make all their money but have to close all their books. It's just freaking chaos and you feel it every year. And
It is
even
a
when
rough
it's in
time.
the charts too, it's always so chaotic. So it's like what's
Yeah.
influencing what?
Well, I feel like Adele and I really solved that last week when we said that Americans can't do January,
Yeah.
and we can't.
That
So,
should just be the void. Like it's just like a doesn't count. It's just that doesn't have dates or time. It's just like we'll let you know when February begins.
right. And so, yeah, I feel like, we're just, we're rocking and rolling. So we're making the most of everything. And hopefully, 2024 will continue to be a little calmer than it's been the past several years. We'll see. So yeah, that's me with your booger news and your forecast. So back to you, Adele.
And thanks. Um, I have a great headline story.
I can't
If
wait.
if you were listening or if you actually listened to the end, last week I landed on a cryptid, so that is my topic for this week. And this one is very regional. Like it's a very specific
Okay.
region. But
Okay.
I like this one because I think there's a strong, strong, strong case that it's real.
Okay.
And this is the Ozark Blue Man.
Ooh. No, you're
Uh,
not talking about the band.
no, not that I'm
I
aware of. I don't know.
I just wanted to clarify there wasn't a connection.
I mean, maybe it's their namesake, but I don't think he feels
That would be
associated
hilarious
to any
if they were
artists.
fired because they found him and they're like, I know what I have to do with my
I
life
mean, why the
now.
hell else would they be called that?
Yeah,
It's not named, they're not named after him.
exactly.
They must
That's
be,
my
right?
point.
Yeah.
I think that
He's not named
I
after
think
them.
they had an encounter and things changed for them.
Really? Well, they sure as hell didn't come public with it because I don't have a recent encounter.
Oh, well, I have never heard of this scripted. I do love some Ozarks, so
Yeah.
we are all about
I'd never heard of him until I heard of him on another podcast. That's actually usually more of a true crime podcast, oddly enough.
so
The Let's
funny.
Read podcast.
Okay.
And I was like, what the heck is that thing? And then here we
I'm here
go.
for it.
So
Here
yeah,
we go.
so the Ozark Blue Man, aka the Spring Creek Blue Man, because that's a very specific area where he's
Okay,
seen in the Ozarks.
got it.
Before we get into the story, let me thank my sources: ozarksalive.com, journalnews.com, newspapers.com. They're actually, it's fun because it takes place in the mid 1800s to the 1960s. So
Holy
you have tons of
cow.
local newspaper clippings.
I love that. Yeah.
The library.org and cryptids.fandom.com.
All right.
All right. So the Ozark Blue Man, he tends to hang out in, like I said, the Spring Creek area. So this is in Missouri, but it's really like south central. So it's right on the border of Arkansas, like probably just a
Okay.
few miles. Like, so you might, I'm sure there are other sightings in even Arkansas of the Blue Man, or there might be
Makes
stories
it.
of them. But it specifically is around Douglas County, where North Fork and Spring Creek are. So that's the county where those exist. And then occasionally Ozark and Howell County, which are like really neighboring. They all touch.
Okay.
Um, and he's usually on remote hillsides whenever he's spotted,
All
which I'm
right.
digging that. I like that kind
Yeah.
of scenery
He
too.
likes to keep to himself. He needs some space.
Yeah. So hence his name, he's very man-like. So he looks like a humanoid for sure. More man than animal.
Okay.
Really, really tall. Most people say 9 feet. But I've heard ranges 7 to 9.
Wow.
They're very big. Okay, like
Yeah.
a freaking giant and robust. Like as well, he's not just skinny, he's just big.
Right.
He has huge hands and he's usually carrying a gigantic, wooden club. So he's kind of like a caveman.
I was about to say, yeah. I'm thinking
Yeah.
like of a huge Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, he's like Encino Man, kind of.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, probably more like Fred Flintstone, I guess, with like the bulk, but not the goofiness.
Yeah.
And I put down some of his hobbies.
Okay.
He enjoys fishing. I think he usually fishes with his hands, and he does eat the fish raw because
He
he's
likes
more
fishing.
animal-like.
Fine.
Yeah, so he likes fishing. He loves thieving livestock from locals,
Okay.
and he really enjoys throwing huge boulders at hunters and people who chase him.
Good to know.
And he's kind of fashionable. He might even dye his hides and pelts with like berries to make them a blue color.
I like it. Okay.
So
Well,
that
this
kind
is
of,
power color. Check.
yeah, he might be kind of fashionable. I don't know.
I love that. I feel like we haven't seen that in a cryptid yet. I'm gonna say
Right?
cryptid. I feel like we haven't seen
Cryptid.
a fashionista.
Yeah, so that definitely seems more human-like to me. Having a
Yeah.
little bit of vanity there. Which kind of takes us to his namesake. Like we don't really know the one reason. Some say it's because he has jet black fur that kind of has that blue
Okay.
to
Like
it.
that blue hue. Yeah.
Some say it's because of the colorful, like the blue colored skins and even decorative feathers he wears that are dyed with blueberries. Like,
Ooh,
um,
I'm in.
so I don't know. Or some people say it's because of the first person who saw him, who was a man named Blue Saul Collins. Which takes us to our chain of sightings.
Okay, here we go.
All right, so let's talk about Blue Saul Collins.
Yeah, I wonder if he's a relative.
Okay, so I was trying to figure this out. So Blue Saul Collins saw him in 1865. So there are a lot of pioneers in that area. So it's still pretty. I mean, the Ozarks in general, even today, are pretty unexplored and they're just so massive. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how mysterious they were in 1865. And just a note to talk about the regions where we are, like these towns and like, like Spring Creek and all these towns, it's today 2,000 or less people. Like these are tiny middle of nowhere places with
Yeah.
very small populations. So according to the Springfield Republican, this was published in 1915. Just kind of like looking back at the account from 1865.
Right.
Quote, in the early spring of 1865, Blue Saul Collins was hunting on the divide between North Fork and Spring Creek. A light snow had fallen the night before. The woodland seemed to be covered by a myriad of tracks, turkey tracks, deer tracks, rabbit, fox, and coon tracks. Big and little tracks, but most conspicuous were the tracks that resembled somewhat those of a bear. Blue Saul was a hunter without fear, and believing the bigger the game, the better, he followed. So the long, broad tracks even were like claw-like, leaving claw-like impressions in soft snow, so it's kind of easy to follow.
Yeah.
So after following the trail for several hours over the North Fork, Indian, and Spring Creek hills, Saul suddenly came upon the object of his search on the north slope of Upper Twin Mountain. And I looked up all these little areas and they're legit. They truly are on the map.
Okay.
So that's passing for being true. Um, Saul jumped out of the path of several descending boulders and ran. So a bunch of boulders came at him as he's following this thing.
Yep.
He had seen an object unmistakably human, though strongly resembling a vicious animal, hurling huge boulders at him down the steep hillside. So that's his account. And then it's kind of quiet for like 9 years. It was
Wow.
that account in 1864, and then nobody really sees him again. There
It's like
again,
the thing must have died or something. People are thinking or moved on.
right? But to that point, even today, there's so few people there. Like, what are the odds of even bumping into another human at this point? Like, I don't know. I think he's still out there. It's just no sightings reported for
Yeah.
9 years. And then in the fall of 1874 through 1890, there's few sightings. And it kind of starts to generate buzz around the little towns. So buzz began around town of him like snatching sheep and hogs and some of the livestock. And then the carcasses of the missing livestock were found in the woods. So they're like, oh, somebody's stealing our stuff. So they're getting kind of pissed
Yeah.
about it, right?
Yeah. Especially during that time.
Yeah, so they're like, but they also have heard buzz about it's this wild man maybe stealing these things. So they're like, let's go on a hunt. Let's find what this is. So
Oh, they're going on a legit manhunt.
yeah, I mean like pitchforks. It's what, like a true ogre hunt. It almost sounds like I feel
Yeah.
kind of bad for him.
But you're coming for yoga.
Yeah, so so hunts for the blue man were organized for like 1 to 2 weeks, but he kept eluding them.
God.
They weren't successful.
Yeah.
And then over the next few years, anytime he was spotted, they would kind of chase him off. It was just kind of, those were kind of the sightings over this time period. Like, hey, get out of our yard.
Yeah.
But they suspect maybe he had a pretty close call during one of these hunts because then he just like completely went off the radar from 1890 to 1911. So it's kind of
Okay.
like, you know, touch and
Hell
go,
speaks.
not really interactions to like, they scared the crap out of him potentially, and he just
Like,
either
all right.
he left or got really sneaky.
Yeah.
And then in 1911, this is another sighting, and I'm not sure of the exact date, but I think it might be slightly before the next encounter. So I feel like these might be like back to back within days of each other potentially.
Okay.
So this is a 1911 sighting, and it's kind of at the time because this has been a few years, right, with him just going missing. So it's just
Yeah.
as the townspeople are like, I don't know if he even was real. Like, I think maybe somebody made him up. They're starting to like really be suspicious and doubt the whole story.
Right. Like, oh, this is just old folklore.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
like
blah.
people are just full of crap.
Yeah.
So
Trying to scare you.
about this time, he was seen again, and more joined in the search. Quote, reportedly, they discovered the creature's den in a cave in a remote valley. The floor of the
Ooh.
cave was littered with the bones of animals he had eaten, and a bed of dry leaves was found in a corner. It's kind of cozy. Again, just as before, the creature disappeared. The next time the blue man was seen, O.C. Collins, now I don't know if that's any relation to Blue Saul, but I'm
Right.
taking as this is a really small community, and there's a lot of
Likely.
Collins around that area.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I hear the name Collins consistently, but it might be different first names, so I don't know if it's just like a big family.
Right.
They're
Probably
fucking
I would think
pioneers,
like a
like,
family of like settlers, you know?
right? So I feel like maybe they're all
Probably a
cousins
cousin
or
or
something.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're related to Blue, but anyway, this is a different person. O.C. Collins was searching for 2 lambs that had disappeared. He spotted the creature on Spring Creek, 4 miles from Old Horton. 2 days later, Cap Turner came across him catfishing with his hands in Indian Creek. So I don't know. I think that's kind of fun seeing Blue Man just fishing.
I mean, the man's got to eat too.
And the creature chased Turner up a steep hillside, swinging a huge club at him. So he was not wanting that guy around, and rightly so. And then Cal Alsip, a few days later, was one of a posse that chased the blue man into a cave. He stumbled through the darkness over objects he knew were the pelts of sheep or the dried hides that had once made a meal for the wild man. He was seen one more time after eluding his pursuers at the cave. That time was at Ava Crossing, which is also a legit place. It's like a little town.
Okay.
Where he was catching crayfish from under rocks and eating the tails. So that was sightings. And then one source didn't mention this and another source did. So I don't know, take this with a grain of salt, I guess. There's some things I'm a bit more suspicious about with this one, and we can talk about that. But of all days, August 18th, 1911, and that edition of the Sentinel, this is an alleged capture. And I'm already suspicious of that because we would have definitely probably seen pictures of that.
Yeah, you would
at
think
this
that
time.
that would be big news.
Yeah, so, quote, the mysterious disappearance of livestock and farm truck, maybe he even stole a farm truck, that had many farmers along Bryant Creek puzzled was solved. Two boys, Ott Collin, so it's a Colin, not a Collins, and it's Ott, Ott Collin and Tom Rayburn, were returning from a fishing trip. They noticed something apparently springing right out of the ground near the base of the hollow and began chasing one of the frightened sheep that was grazing there. The frightened boys didn't stick around. They ran home just as quick as they could get there. When they got back home and told their parents what they had seen, they quickly gathered a bunch of men. The boys acted as guides, and when arriving at the spot, they found a log and an opening into the ground that looked as if it frequently was used. So I highlighted that because that scares the literal shit out of me, because it's just like the creatures in Descent, if you've ever seen that movie. It's like these hillbilly inbred creatures who have gone underground probably since around this time and are now like blind bat-like creatures that eat anything, including people. Like, it's just like horrifying, and I'm like, this is almost like confirmation that that could be true.
Oh dear.
It just terrifies me. The story goes on, though. One of the men pulled together his courage, shoved in a lantern, and followed into a cave room of considerable size. I would not have done that. This guy is brave. At the far side, a man was crouched and said to be the sorriest specimen of a man any of them had ever seen. He was bare of clothing except for a breechcloth of some kind of animal hide. His body was completely covered with short hair, and his head was covered with a mass of hair 2 feet long.
Oh, okay.
The wild man tried to get away, but he was caught and turned over to the authorities. He either couldn't or wouldn't talk, and his cave was littered deep with wool, hair, bones, and feathers. There was no evidence of him ever having cooked his food. And that's it. That's the end of the story. So it's not, that to me makes it sound like bullshit. It's like, okay, so then what did you do with this man?
Or it kind of makes me feel like, was this someone that wasn't well?
Right, but either way, it's like, so
Not
what,
the
you
blue-
captured him and then
Not the
released
blue
him?
man, you know what I mean? Like, was this maybe something else? Or is
Oh,
the blue
like
man?
the person's account of whoever reported
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, like, could it be
Well-
something separate, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll get to some theories about these accounts too, because
Okay.
the townspeople definitely have opinions.
Sure.
So that was 1911, and then 1915, there were sightings by numerous loggers from Willow Springs, which is also a legit place, saying they saw the Blue Man near the Blue Rock Mountain. Springfield News Leader, quote, Jay Tabor saw him less than a week ago, reported the Republican. His hair, once black, is now gray, and his body is not so robust as it was 50 years ago when Blue Saw Collins saw him first. But he is still very active and is probably the best living example of the simple life, one said.
I mean, that's one way to put it.
Yeah, also in that year, the legend spread to a lot of local papers. So it started, I don't think it's fully across the state yet, but it's starting to get, spread a little bit
Yeah.
around Missouri. I'm sorry, did I even say this was Missouri? Anyway, I
Yeah,
think
you
I
did at the beginning.
Okay. So it's starting to kind of spread a little bit. And then July 8th, 1915, Stanberry Headlight, one of the journals, quote, Douglas County wood haulers report having seen the strange creature several times lately. So that's July. And then the next month, August 10th, 1915, Moberly Weekly Monitor. News comes to this site that after an absence of 4 years, the mysterious Blue Man of Spring Creek has again appeared in his old haunts and is causing great excitement in the wild and hilly country along the Big North Fork, Indian, and Spring Creeks in the eastern end of Douglas County. And Mountain Grove Journal 1, quote, Wild Man at Large. That's all they had to say. Okay, so then that's 1915. 1924. By November 15th, 1924, terror was prevailing over northern Howell and Douglas counties. From Tater Hill, yes, I said Tater. No, I didn't check that one out, but I hope it's real. From Tater Hill to Collins Ford, and from Blue Buck to the Ava Crossing, people were searching for the Blue Man. Cattle weren't allowed to graze. Sheep were watched by herders with rifles, and livestock were locked up at night. Nobody left their home, and churches and schools were closed.
School's out.
People armed with rifles and shotguns searched every nook and cranny of the area in search of the Blue Man of Spring Creek. I guess they didn't find him, because then in 1925, the Blue Man just went quiet for the next 10 years. No more sightings, really, after 1915. And then December 1938, the Bunt brothers of Johnson Hollow. This is where like you start to get more accounts where we could go on forever. But long story short, their hound dogs trapped the Blue Man up a tree because they were, trying to find something else. But they ended up trapping the Blue Man up a tree. Quote, they saw the dog bang up the big tree in which there was a man hissing and snarling in anger. He had no weapons and no clothes except for some type of fur garment around his middle and something wrapped around his feet. According to the brothers, he was hairy and apparently blue from the cold, which makes me a little sad.
Oh, yeah.
And then lastly, 1966 in Peterbottom, which is actually northwest Arkansas, so it's off the border.
Okay.
Long story short here, a doctor wanted for murder, which is a whole nother thing, hid out in the forest around Peterbottom, and he was later caught and found insane, but he did make a statement that there was a monster in those woods.
So, by the way.
So it's like, take that for what you will from a clearly crazy.
He's like, if I turn in evidence on the Blue Man, will you reduce my charges?
Yeah, right. Make a deal. Maybe
I mean, you can't blame the guy.
Yeah, I take this one a little more with a little more credibility because two young horseback riders, oddly enough, passed a man on a tractor while they were out for a ride, and he was like, "Hey, there's a monster around this area. I spotted him while I was plowing, so just be careful. There's like a crazy wild man out here." And they were like, "Okay." And then the two continued toward the valley, riding their horses, but their horses were spooked and wouldn't go any further. So they got off the horses and walked themselves into the valley. Quote, the boys then walked the rest of the way into the valley where they spotted what they thought was a large clump of white fur in the grass near a cedar tree. They thought it must be a dead horse or cow, but when they got within 10 yards of the clump of fur, it stood up. The two young men described it as an animal that stood upright like a man, with its body covered completely with white hair, around 2 or 3 inches long. They said its height was about 8 or 9 feet, and his features looked more like a man than an ape. Its face and hands were pinkish color, and these were the only areas not covered by white fur. They also said there was a strong offensive odor, which they described as smelling like old coffee grounds coming from the creature. Which I'm like, it smelled worse.
Old grounds. I mean,
yeah. And then they hightailed it out of there. They were pretty creeped out, and I think he started coming at him and scared him off.
Like,
And
if
that
the
was really
horse won't go,
the
you
last scene.
probably shouldn't go.
Right. I'm just like, don't.
Don't.
If your horse is scared, what do you think you're gonna do?
Yeah, like, get it the hell out of there.
Yeah, so that's the last report. I mean, I think on my podcast, like I've heard other more recent reports of a
Right.
creature like this, and the Ozarks is full of creatures like this that don't go by the name the Blue Man. So
Right.
I didn't want to step on the toes of other creatures we might cover as well, because
Yeah.
there have been way more recent sightings, even by Rob Lowe, of all fucking
What?
people. He claims he had like a Bigfoot like encounter or spotting in the Ozarks. But
Whoa.
that's not specifically the Blue Man, which is who we're
Yeah.
talking about today. Um, Other than that, we can start talking through what we think and what the townspeople think. But I just highlighted some odd parts to the story that I think might add context for when we discuss theories of what we
Okay.
think is really going on. So I had this highlighted as odd parts to the story because I think this was around 1911-ish, like when we said the story was starting to go outside of that small town and maybe start spreading across the state.
Mm-hmm.
So Howell County residents were cited in an article vehemently denying the Blue Man's existence around that time too, though. So according to the Sedalia Weekly Democrat, quote, the Blue Man of the Ozarks is a mythical creature in the stories about the wild and woolly personage, which have been going the rounds of the daily papers of the state are wholly fictitious, according to residents of that district described as his haunts, noted an article in the Leader. Much objection to the stories is taken by the residents of that part of the state, who declared that they do much injury to the region by creating the impression that the people have to go armed to teeth to protect themselves. So they think it's fear mongering, kind of making their town look bad. This is another odd correspondence, actually. So this is set up as like kind of a curious person who caught wind of this story in California. They wrote to Ava's Crossing, like the postmaster there, that little
Right.
town. So they wrote to the postmaster and supplied like a newspaper clipping with the story to the Blue Man legend. They were like, "Is this true? Can you tell me like what you know
Yeah.
about this?" And portions of the postmaster's response were printed in the Nevada Daily News in March 1925, and this is what it said. The clipping you enclosed is stated in facts, the postmaster wrote. However, this man is now dead, but many of his children now live in a wild state on the banks of Spring Creek, all colored blue, living in the nude, and subsist on small wild animals such as bear. I wouldn't consider that small personally. Anyway,
Yeah. We're just feeding on bears.
some small animals like bear. Um, so they're subsisting on small wild animals such as bear, wild cats, and mountain lions, which these people devour raw. Many of them are
Ooh.
7 to 8 feet tall and weigh 300 to 500 pounds, and are often seen carrying young horses and cattle on their shoulders that are dens of large caves where they live. No one in this country ventures out at night in this vicinity, as to do so means sure death. But the biggest question that you kind of can't tell is, was this sarcastic or not?
Right. Yeah. Like, do they
Right?
really mean it, or are they just, yeah, doing like a little satire?
Right. So I think a lot of people dismiss that as sarcasm, but it's
Yeah.
still in the news.
Hmm. That's interesting.
But yeah, so then we can kind of get into what people are saying they think it is. A wild man is one theory, which I think
Yeah.
that's one I definitely agree with. Anyway, first theory is that he's a wild man. Um,
Okay. I could see that.
So, quote, who he is, nobody is sure, but he is said to be a descendant of French traders who visited this territory just before the Revolutionary War. One of the traders was accompanied by a Spanish woman from Florida, so you know the trouble's coming. Um, Noted in the 1915 Republican article, quote, he cast her aside somewhere in the Ozarks, and she is said to have been the great great grandmother of the Blue Man of Spring Creek. His other ancestors were Indians. That's what they say that potentially could be. Which I'm like, I think it could be like pioneers who were wild. I don't know. I don't know if you can really figure out when they
I
come
think
from.
maybe he could have been a pioneer, but maybe he just had one. one too many uncooked something and went bananas.
Oh, so you think he was like mentally ill?
I think maybe, yeah, but I don't know, like he was like maybe born that way. I think maybe it's just the living conditions like drove him bananas. Like maybe, or maybe he got like rabies or something,
Could be.
contracted something like by not, just like by like not cooking meat or, just getting some kind of disease that just made him wild. It sounds like to
Yeah.
me.
I don't know. So like that for context of that theory, like that story does come from a local. According to the newspaper, the story was from Jerry Hildenbrand. That's right, Jerry Hildebrand. And he had settled in Douglas County in 1820 and died there in
Hmm.
1885. So he was there
Wow.
for that original sighting, like the whole original batch. So, and
Yeah.
since he does have the context before that of knowing who kind of settled there, it seems kind of, I don't know, it's a possibility. I'm not going to rule that out as a possibility.
Yeah.
But another theory is that this is just a tall tale. So some speculate that locals, including Mr. Hildebrand, the guy who gave the
Okay.
account up there, are just full of shit, essentially, and they like to just pull people's legs. Like they just really enjoy making up stories and seeing how far they can take it. Like they think some are saying it's more of just like the culture in that area of telling tall
I
tales.
mean, you can't really rule that out either.
Yeah. So, quote, some people just made up stories to see how far they could go, says Sharon Sanders, who has lived most of her 73 years in Douglas County and
Okay.
is secretary treasurer of the Douglas County Historical Society. They were
Oh, all
called
right.
quote unquote kidders back then. So she's saying it's a bunch of kidders,
Bunch of
a
bullshitters.
bunch of bullshitters. Yeah. And then local historian Sunita Brown also says there was no entertainment. People sat around and told tall tales.
Well, I mean, that is very valid too. It's like you didn't have the TV or,
Yeah,
probably even books at that time.
and
So,
yeah, I could, and it is very fun to just make up stories
oh
around
yeah.
fire. I mean, people still
Well,
do
like, look how
that,
much fun ghost stories and stuff are. We love
and
them.
it's to me whenever you're talking about like the 1800s and stuff like that, I'm like, you're pretty much living like you're camping every day. So of course you're
Exactly.
gonna
It's just
tell
part
those
of camp
stupid
culture,
camping stories.
truly.
Yeah.
That's true. And maybe do you think maybe like the tall tale was also like trying to keep people out of the woods, trying to keep them safe, to like maybe like don't go too far to the woods
That was
or
another thing I omitted, like the actual quotes, but like Sharon Sanders, I believe she was just saying like people would even do that about like the next town over and be like all the people that are mean, don't go there. But the town would be saying the same thing about their town. So then you just have all these towns who are like, oh, everybody in that town's an asshole, and I'm not gonna go
and they've
there.
never even known. Yeah, just to keep their population. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. Or you don't want to go there. They have the blue man. Kill
Yeah, or
you.
like you don't want to go there. They're all rude. And they're saying
Yeah.
the same thing about you guys. So I don't know. I think that's totally possible. Just some like people being trying to be entertaining and also just people being people.
Right.
And these are like I think obviously it could be a Bigfoot. It was like what some people would think. But I will say this sounds more to me like a wild human.
Yeah.
Um, or I think then the bigger question is could it just be something completely else? Like none of those things. I don't
There's
know.
always that possibility too. I'm like you. I kind of lean towards a wild human or just a tall tale, just a fun little story.
Yeah, I think maybe I believe a little bit of a mix of those two. Like, I think there probably was more of an antisocial person, even in these antisocial people.
Right.
That was like kind of unusual and even more reclusive and more
And you just
wild.
kind of make up stories about them,
And then if he became more monstrous and 9 feet tall over time,
Right.
maybe he was an
Exactly.
unusually tall guy. Maybe he was like 6'6" or
I'm
something.
kind of getting the feel, and this is so crazy, but in my mind, I feel like this is like the movie Big Fish. That whole big fish, like, like maybe he was like crazily tall, and maybe he was like living out like a vagabond in the woods, and he had some really odd personality issues, but then it's like you start telling it through a different lens, and then he becomes this thing, this cryptid.
Yeah. Or
You know
like,
what I
I
mean?
mean, he could have even had like a mental, like a cognitive disability.
Yeah, and especially at that time,
Yeah,
that
like
could have really
maybe
freaked
he was
people out,
severely autistic
know?
or something. Like,
Didn't know what they were like, oh, he's a madman. He's
I mean, and I
completely
hate to bring it
person.
up, but like it could be inbreeding.
Well, it could. Yeah, it could.
I mean,
And like I was
because
kind of going back to like, eating food that's undercooked, or it could even be something like that, or like a disease that, we get vaccinations for now. It could be like a ton of things like that just kind of rolled into
yeah,
one, you know?
I think it's probably just like a really primitive inbred, possibly person. I
Yeah.
mean, because you kind of hear these stories about things like that in like the Appalachians too, but I'm like, it's
Right.
kind of like the same
Very
situation.
similar.
All these really
Mm-hmm.
remote, small places with not a lot of people. And you do
And
have
it's like,
cousins marrying cousins. I mean, because it's not
yeah,
even that
you
uncommon at
do.
this point in time, right? Like you might still have people marrying their cousin in the mid
Yeah.
1800s. I don't know.
And then you figure like someone like that, they wouldn't know what to do with and they're scared of, so they just cast them away to fend for
Yeah.
themselves pretty
Like I don't,
much. You know what I mean? Like it's really kind of sad and vomitous, but
yeah. And my
it's
thing
likely.
is, the timeline I think makes sense. It's plausible someone could live during that time span, and they did find a person who is now
Right.
dead and died in the
And
60s.
you can tell the progression of the person's age, it seems like too, with like the
Yeah.
encounters. You
Like
know what I mean?
I don't think it's the same. I think they've stumbled upon at least two of them because like I don't think the first one lived to be 100 years, essentially from
Right.
1865 to 1966. Like I don't think that. It's possible though people do live that long, but I highly doubt it without medical
Especially in those conditions.
attention. And so
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe Blue had stumbled upon the dad and then the 1960s people stumbled upon the son or something like that.
Yeah. Or another, or maybe like another part of that family that had the
Or
same
just a
thing.
whole clan of wild people out there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that just got cast, like castaways.
Yeah, because it does kind of have hills have eyes like vibes too.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Like, and
It's
to me,
creepy.
that's way more
Yeah.
terrifying than a cryptid.
I agree. I completely agree. I mean, I feel like a cryptid is one thing, but I think when you're dealing with human beings and things like this, that's a whole nother level of scary.
So yeah, unfortunately, I do think this is a true thing people are experiencing and seeing in the Ozarks. I bet it's a whole clan of them, and I bet it's just really divergent people,
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah,
I would definitely agree.
that's my opinion though. I would love to hear other theories.
Hmm. Me
Um,
too. I'd love to go to the Ozarks and hear these stories.
yeah, for sure. But that one was a lot of fun, a lot of good, newspaper clippings and
Yeah,
documentation
like
of
well
sightings.
documented, it sounded like over quite a long period of time. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I appreciate the consistency of how he looks, though, which makes me think it really is a real thing people are seeing.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
pioneer people, come on, they don't freaking scare easy. They're out there settling this
No.
stuff. Like they would
I
have shot him
mean,
and eaten him for dinner if they had the chance. Like it's not like you know what I mean? I don't feel like their imaginations were running away with them. They've seen scary shit.
yeah, like pioneer people are a whole nother level of don't scare easy.
Man, and for them to be like, yeah, the wild man's eating bears. I'm like, you're trying to hunt something that's eating bears?
Yeah.
Nothing should be eating bears. It's horrifying. I wouldn't
Yeah.
chase it.
I would
That's
be like, I'm
insane.
just gonna go back to my yard.
Uh, anyway, that's
Oh,
the wild
that's a
story of the
good
wild blue
one.
man. Okay.
I've never heard of Blue Man, but very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting indeed.
So
Very
I guess we
cool.
can add the Ozarks to the bucket list.
I
Actually, there are
mean,
so many guys, like there are multiple cryptids in the Ozarks. Like that's just one.
that's crazy.
Like
Yeah,
the Ozarks are a pretty mysterious place.
I believe, like you said, I feel like the Ozarks are a lot like at the Appalachian region.
Mhm.
Like you could just we could probably spend several episodes just doing cryptids on those areas. They're so
Mhm.
massive and just deep forest and just all kinds of
Treacherous,
stuff.
mysterious, and
Yeah,
I think it's like two of the only places I can think of where you can truly just get lost in the United States
Oh, for sure.
and not found. Like I really
Yeah.
do think like people could live out there and nobody would ever
Nobody would
know.
ever know it. Yeah, that's spooky
Especially
too.
if they're going underground, potentially, like where they were saying
Oh,
that they found that thing that goes underground and leads up to a cave room.
I don't know why that just terrifies me.
It just really makes me think of the movie The Descent, which is one of the scariest movies in my opinion. Because you mix in the claustrophobia. Now I'm more horrified of that movie in a great way because I love horror. But I'm like, oh my,
Right.
and that's what always bothered me about the movie. That it's like it's believable, but now it's
Yeah.
like really believable.
I think I'm like you too. Like the whole claustrophobia of it makes me just like I don't know. It just feels like I have like a box on my chest or something. I can't breathe.
I just feel like if there is a
Oh,
creature working that hard to make themselves invisible, don't follow it.
just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. They don't want to be found for a reason.
And I dare say you could why did anybody try to befriend him? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if you had left some berries out? He clearly likes those.
Yeah, and just
What
and
if you
left.
had tried to be nice to him and try to figure
Right.
out like, hey, where you from, dude? Did you know you
Yeah.
could cook food? Like, you want some
Yeah.
salt? I don't know.
Oh no.
But yeah, it really, I don't know. It had all the great vibes of like a good old, I don't know, lore kind of story, but it's a
It
cryptid
definitely
story
does.
at the heart of
I
it.
could
So
definitely, that's a good campfire, roasting some marshmallows, telling a little story. That's a good one.
yeah, so if you're having gloomy, cold, shitty weather, cozy up, listen to the
Yeah,
story of the Blue Man.
that's right. I love it. That's a good one, Adele.
Thank you. It was a fun one. It was easy to research because there were so many accounts.
Yeah, I love it when you've got really good accounts. People like keep really good records.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the story's already written. This
You're
is
like, this is
great.
great.
I don't have to figure out how to put this all together in a cohesive
That's
way.
always nice.
Yeah. Well, shall we see what you might be covering
Let's
next week?
see what I'm going to be covering for you guys.
Okay. Let's spin the
I
wheel.
can't wait. All right, let's do it. Oh, 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 oh.
Ooh,
I feel like it's been a while since we've covered a
possession.
possession. I've had a few of those stories, not
Are
a
you
few
cool with that one, or do
possessions.
you want
But
something
no,
else?
I'm
We
sure
haven't
I
done
can
it in a
find us
while.
something. I'm sure I can find us something good.
Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's our show. So if you're like, this is the shit category, just pick something else.
I'll let you know. If I can't find anything good, I'll like, we're changing it to Percenter's Choice.
There you go.
Because, that's how we do at Stormy Below. Or no rules, just right. Like the Outback.
That's Outback.
Oh gosh, that was great, Adele. That was awesome. I wonder if we have any listeners in the Ozarks.
I don't know. I'd love to know what kind of stuff you freaking hear out
And
there.
me too.
Like,
I want to
geez.
hear
Yeah.
the mysterious. I thought that's some mysterious land out there.
I could probably just watch trail cams all day. Just have that on the side just to see if
Like,
something
oh
weird
my
pops
God,
up. Those are
that would
just-
be really cool. I
yeah.
love that. Well, as we say here on our podcast, stay safe out there, friends,
Stay curious.
and never trust the living. Maybe also, like, if you're horseback riding and that horse wants to turn around, turn around. Listen
Yeah,
to that
always,
horse.
don't trust the living, but always trust your animals.
Yes, 100%. Trust me, they know stuff.
They have a horse sense, literally. Okay, we're gonna go out on a high. Bye.
Yeah, we are. Bye, guys.